Hey there, welcome back. It's Amanda here from the House on October Drive. If you're new here, welcome. On this channel, we cover lots of home renovation makeovers, DIYs, home decor, and of course, my personal favorite, Halloween. In this video, I'm gonna show you how to make this moon-shaped wreath that you see behind me here. This DIY was inspired by a Michael's wreath that seems to be pretty popular this year, but is literally sold out like everywhere. It's also kind of pricey. So I made my own version using some dollar store items. I also wanted to give it more of like a witchy, spooky Halloween vibe. The one that Michael's has kind of has like this celestial, enchanted forest vibe going on, and I kind of wanted to make this one fit in a little bit more with my decor. I wanted to bring in just a little bit of color. I did that with the purple here. You can really use any colors that you want. I really just wanted to break this down step by step for you, especially getting that moon-shaped wreath itself so that you can create your own version and make it whatever Halloween vibe that you want to make it. This is just the first of many haunted DIYs that I'll be posting this season, so make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out. Let's get started. The first thing you want to grab at the dollar store is one of these wreaths. You can also get them in different sizes at craft stores. I picked up a few bags of this green moss. Some dollar stores have different colors. I didn't actually know how much I'd need, but I only ended up using one for my project. You can also get different colored moss like purple, black, or other like blue, greens, pinks at your local craft store. Go ahead and pick up some glue sticks and some floral wire. And then you want to stop by their Halloween section and pick out anything you think you might want to put on the wreath. All of these were only $1 a piece. Honestly, I just kind of picked up a bunch of stuff and then brought it all home, and once I put the wreath together, I decided what I actually was going to use. I'm sure that all the rest of these little pieces I'm going to use in my decor somewhere. And then I stopped by their floral section and picked out a bunch of Halloween florals as well as some of their regular florals. I definitely liked all these different colored picks. They can definitely like add a little bit of texture to it so that you don't just have like moss and flowers on your wreath. I got a bunch of different colored flowers. They had regular red flowers as well as Halloween red flowers, which had black stems. I thought those were cool. They also had the little styrofoam skulls sticking out of the flower. Their black ones had silver skulls in the bunch of flowers. They had regular purple ones as well as Halloween purple ones that also had the black stems, and what I thought was super cute about some of these Halloween ones, they had a little eyeball in the middle, so definitely had to pick those ones up. So you're going to start with your floral wreath, and in order to make it into this crescent moon shape, you're going to remove one section of it and make it look like this. To be quite honest, this was probably the hardest part of making this entire wreath for me. I used 3 different pairs of wire cutters and none of them were able to easily snap through these wires. So what I ended up doing was using a pair of wire cutters just to make a score where I wanted it to bend, and then using a pair of pliers to bend the wire back and forth along that score line in order to snap it in half. Once you have that section removed, we'll go ahead and tape those ends together so that they form the point of the moon. For this, I just used some electrical tape. You can use floral tape if you have it, or if you want to, you can also try and hot glue or use floral wire to wrap those ends together. By the time I got both sides taped together, the wires had been warped a little bit and it wasn't really sitting like a flat moon shape, so I just went ahead and reshaped it so that once I was ready to hang this piece, it would sit flat against the wall. I didn't want these points to be sticking out or anything like that, so I just kind of gently bent it back into place. Next, you're going to take your floral wire, and starting at one point of this crescent moon, you're going to wrap the wire all the way around the moon from one end to the other. What this is going to do is give the wreath a little bit more structure so that once you get to gluing the moss to it, the moss isn't going to fall through those wire edges of the moon. And it also gives you more surface area in order to glue the moss down. So once you have that wrapped around in this like zigzag pattern, you have more wires that you can glue the moss to, and it makes it a lot easier to get it stuck on. Once you have the base of this wreath assembled, it's time to start decorating. So I started with some moss. I started with the green stuff, and I just kind of gave it a thin layer all the way around. You can see as you pull it out of the bag, it falls apart pretty easily. You don't have to worry about all those tiny little pieces. What I'm going for is really just the big pieces that come out in my hand. Any of those tiny pieces that are falling off as I'm gluing this down, I'm really not going to worry about those. Those are pieces that would have fallen off anyways. You don't have to worry about gluing down every single little piece of moss because it does kind of stick together. So just worry about gluing on those clumps that come out of the bag. You can see that I'm just putting a layer of hot glue on every single wire, so both the diagonal wires and those wires that are going in the crescent shape, and this is giving it more surface area to stick to. Once I finished this initial layer of the green moss, I cleaned up my workspace a little bit. You can see it was getting kind of messy there. And then I went in with a different colored moss. I ended up just using black and purple for this wreath, but what I was doing was I covered any areas that were showing through a little bit, maybe where the moss didn't fully cover, or any areas that I just kind of wanted to add a little bit of pop of color. And you don't have to finish putting the moss on at this step. You can always add a little bit more moss later. This was just going to give it a little bit more dimension before I started adding all the other details. Next, I started cutting off pieces of these black and purple branches and putting them really just anywhere I felt that they needed to go on the wreath. I didn't really have any method to my madness here. I just kind of started placing them and decided what looked good. I thought at first I was going to put them in the middle, but then I started to actually space them out more all the way along the wreath and kind of follow that crescent moon shape. Some of these branches will attach themselves just by sticking them through the wires that you have as the base of your wreath, but in order to add a little bit more support, I just put a dab of hot glue on the back side of each one. After the branches were done, I started adding all these little Halloween accents. I gravitated towards the black ones first, the spiders and the bats, and then I decided between these glow-in-the-dark skeleton hands and just the regular skeleton hands. I thought the regular ones kind of fit better with the colors in this wreath than the glow-in-the-dark ones. And I had these white bones that you can see over in the corner, but I thought they would be too bright for this wreath. So I just added a couple of these skeleton hands and hot glued them on. The bats actually had these little clippies on the back, so I didn't have to glue them down or anything like that. It was just like a little pin clip. I think the spiders were the same. So I just kind of like clipped them on wherever I thought they needed to go. And then I pulled out the flowers, and because I was using the black and purple in this wreath, I really liked the black and purple flowers and pulled out the ones that had the eyeballs in the middle. And I just made like a little flower accent right in the center of this wreath. The last thing I pulled out were these black glittery skulls. They were actually in the red flower bouquets, and I just pulled them off the top of those little sticks and added a few of them throughout the wreath wherever there was any like little piece missing. I think at this point I went in and added a little bit more moss a few different places, a few of those branches, another spider, and just kind of held it up and looked at it and evened it out, see if there's anything else that needed to be placed. Now the Michael's wreath has a like gemstone or a crystal hanging down from the center of that crescent moon, and I wanted to add something similar on this wreath since I am making my own little copycat of it. I also thought it was just kind of a cute little accent to add to this wreath. I decided between putting a spider and a bat, and I thought that since the bats looked a little bit more prominent on this wreath, I would add a bat. This gold chain that I'm using here is the only thing that I did not buy at the dollar store. This I actually had left over from a different project. If you don't have any gold chain, you could use some ribbon or yarn. You can pick that up at the dollar store. Or if you have an old necklace that you don't want anymore, you can upcycle the chain from that necklace to make it a cute little accent on this wreath. So basically what I did here was just measure how far down I wanted this bat to hang. I cut the chain to that same length, and then I hot glued one end of the chain to the back side of the bat, and I used a jump ring to attach the other end of the chain to the wreath so that it was hanging down right in the center. And that was pretty much it for putting this wreath together. I essentially just looked at it to see if there were any other spots that needed filling, if there were any like blank spots within the wreath. I hot glued some of the petals on the flowers together so that you could see the eyeballs a little bit more, and that was pretty much it. I know that the Michael's wreath has something hanging from the top that you can actually use to like hang it from the wall. I didn't feel that this wreath actually needed it. My plan is just to stick a nail in the wall and use the wires that are on the back side in order to hang this wreath, so that way you don't need anything extra hanging from the top of it. And here's how this wreath looks up on the wall next to some of our Halloween decor that we just got out recently. I was playing around with some colored lights here to give it like a little spooky effect, but I love how these glittery bats and spiders really kind of shine and give it just a little extra pop there. The skeleton hands and the eyeballs definitely stick out and give this wreath a lot of character. I definitely had a lot of fun creating this wreath and sharing it with you all. If you like this video, please do me a huge favor and give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and comment below if you plan on making your own moon wreath this Halloween season, and let me know how you plan to add your own personal style to it. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.